From the BBC World Service, in association with ABC and Akashvani, this is Stumped.
Hello, I'm Alison Mitchell and welcome to Stumped. With me for the ABC in Sydney is Jim Maxwell and Charu Sharma is with us from Bangalore for Akashvani. Now, India's women have done it. They are World Cup winners for the very first time. After years of heartbreak and near misses, they won their first World Cup in front of a sold-out home crowd in Navi Mumbai. Harmanpreet Kaur's side beat South Africa by 52 runs. There was so much more in it than that. Victory margins suggest that it sparked emotional scenes between the players, the crowd, and those legends of the women's game who have gone before this current side. Charu, I have been consuming content non-stop ever since that final. What has it been like in India?
Well, that's the word, non-stop, Alison. And why not? Because it's taken them very long, plenty of opportunities, and finally, of course, they climb to the very top. And, nothing that they're getting now is not deserved because so many, I suppose, generations have worked really hard at taking women's cricket forward in India. And the current generation is reaping the reward. But it was wonderful to see that they are trying to rope in the other generations as well by, I suppose, giving some attention there as well. And everything that's coming their way is fully deserved. They worked very hard. Of course, they were at home, I suppose one can argue, but it's just been fabulous. And it's going to open up plenty of opportunities, not just for this team, but of course, for generations, hopefully, to come.
Yeah, it's what you hope. And Jim, the World Cup has always been won by either England or Australia, going back to the first one in 1973. But then those are the countries who have then experienced the most investment, not just prize money, but investment. How significant is this win and for not just Indian cricket, but women's cricket?
Well, it in some ways reminds me of what happened in 1983 when India scored that remarkable win against the West Indies at Lord's to win the World Cup for the first time. And that had a huge effect on the game and the interest, the rest of it throughout India. But I'd reckon that this Indian women's team have been much better rewarded for their victory than that men's team ever was. This team, from what I've been reading, is not only going to collect over $4 million US from the ICC, but it's going to be topped up by the Indian board so that they'll split up something like $5.5 million. Wow. They never had that in those days. They barely have it today for winning a men's World Cup. So well done from that viewpoint and just for what they did to beat Australia, first of all. And I just thought, well, I hope they don't have a hangover from that one because that was an extraordinary performance. And then to come up again in the final, particularly when it looked like Wolfart was going to play another big innings and win the game. So well done. They held on to their chances and they were brilliantly led, I think, in those last few matches by Harmanpreet Kaur. So well done to her. Well done to India, yes. This should be a transformational victory in terms of the status of Indian women in the game of cricket, which has been thereabouts but has now hit another peak. And so potentially could be a juggernaut kicking on for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a moment I think the women's cricket world has been waiting for a long time. And it wasn't just a win for the players in the current India squad. It really was a win for all the players who have gone before them, which includes former captain Anjum Chopra. Now, she led the side on and off for 10 years, played in 4 50-over World Cups, including the 2005 final when they lost to Australia. And she commentated on this tournament for television and was in the commentary box for the winning moment and told me just how it felt to watch history being made.
It was magical, Ali. It's a different feeling altogether to be called yourself as champions. I wasn't playing in that, but I've played in a few where we've been always called as congratulations. It was a tough game. We know tough luck and hard luck and all that we've heard from teams. But to go over the line to win a final, it's not just winning a semi-final and getting into a final. It's about winning the final. And, having your arms aloft like that in celebration and saying, yes, we've done it and celebrating and hugs and congratulatory messages all coming through. It was a very different emotion that all of us experienced. I guess it will just continue that way because it's not very many times that you walk in the corridor of a hotel and people come and say, "Hey, we saw you on television last night. Congratulations, Indian women's team has won, and we saw you celebrating. That must have been magical." And it's from not only Indian people, but even from different nationalities. But yes, people who follow cricket in India, you know how their reactions would be like. And they were up. They were up. Or rather awake, because obviously the final went on to the next day. So they were watching our coverage till Indian time 2 to 2:30 a.m. because we were live till that time, actually live talking cricket and celebrating. So it's obviously a very different feeling to address yourself as world champions.
And you were in the commentary box as that winning catch was held. I mean, for you personally then, you must have had a lot of emotions that were ready to spill over. Did you have to sort of contain them a bit on air? Like, how did you manage that moment?
You know, it was very, very funny because I was with Bish in the commentary box. And so the moment the 8th wicket fell, it was like, okay, we've seen this in the past. We have to go over the line. Then the 9th wicket fell. And I just looked at our statistician and I asked him a question. I said, "Are you sure we just need one more wicket?" He said, "Yeah, we are 9. South Africa is 9 down." So I said, "Does that mean that we just need one more wicket?" He looked at me.
Can't quite believe it.
You couldn't believe, because there were like 50 plus runs which were required. And I said, "Okay, so if we get one more, we'll win."
Just triple checking.
Just checking. And he says, "Yes." I said, "Okay, we'll make sure that we get that wicket very quickly." And in the middle of the over, we were having this conversation and it's like very different, you know. And then like, when is that one wicket going to come? It's like few seconds around this conversation and that emotion. And then that ball went up in the air. And I saw Harman, she was at covers, and I saw Harman running backwards. I said, and I'm thinking to myself, I know this ball has enough airtime for Harman to get to the ball, but it can still go away from her. And all these thoughts are just coming. What if she gets to that ball? And I hope she catches it. You don't have that much of time, but you know how the thoughts go around.
Like time stands still.
Yes. And I just see her hands go out and, you know, she catches the ball over her head. And it's like the way she ran after catching that ball. I mean, I'm just thinking what thought she might have had, but the thought that I had in that commentary box is like jubilation. I wanted to jump, which I did. I wanted to celebrate, which I did. And I after some time, I just didn't know how happy I am or what more should I do to share that happiness, because it was a moment which, for the first time as an Indian national and Indian women's cricket team member or a part of that, has actually experienced that emotion. So it was beautiful, and I still remember it so very clearly.
Tell us about the vibe in the ground, the crowd for a start.
It was excellent. I mean, to have about 38,000 people, don't have an official number, but for the semi-final, it was 32,000 plus tickets sold, and others who were there in the ground. So for the final, they were sold out. So the capacity is about 40,000, and they were sold out. So I'm guessing about easily 38,000 people must have been there in the ground as tickets sold. And the celebration was that none of them left till the presentation happened. Everyone was there in the stadium. And when they started leaving was 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. when the Indian team was doing their lap of honor. And just after that also, they were still hanging around. They were leaving in small numbers, and they were still waiting to get a glimpse or a picture or an autograph with their stars. It was that kind of a feeling. And what I also realized is that people it's not about the amount they spent to buy that ticket for the match. It's the time that they invested to coming to the cricket ground and watching a women's cricket game. I thought that has been the biggest shift and a deal clincher in Indian women's cricket team reaching the final and winning it.
I'll come to that bigger picture in a moment, but I just want to ask you about, I saw footage, didn't I, of the team coming and celebrating with you and Mithali Raj, the former captain, and Jhulan Goswami as well on the outfield. Tell me about that. How did that all happen?
They celebrated with Mithali on the other side of the commentary box because Mithali was the one who was walking the trophy, and I'm sure she was still hanging around that time. But after that, once they came on the opposite side of the ground because they were doing that lap of honor and thanking people, so they had to bump into us. And me and Jhulan were very much ready to bump into them. And it was a little funny because Mayanti was hosting the show and she suddenly looked left and right. She didn't find either. And
You've gone.
And I was asking the floor lady, I said, in case they come around, she says, don't worry, they'll come around and we'll get their footage. I said, no, when they come around, I need to meet them. And nobody was giving me an answer because nobody would give me an answer that, yeah, you can leave the show and go around. So once the anchor was doing the show and I was quietly handed my microphone to the floor manager. I said, just hold this for a minute, I'll return. Let's say 3 minutes. When I said, my earpiece is missing or the IFB is missing. Who's where? And just when I realized that everybody was around and I was celebrating because they shared the trophy with me. And I called for Harman. I said, Kaptan, let's come in. Let's celebrate this trophy, lifting together. And then I met the girls around. Then Jhulan came in and before we realized, we didn't know where Mayanti and where the camera was, where the monitor was, where we were. We just didn't know where Mayanti herself didn't know where everybody else was. And it was absolutely brilliant. For the team to celebrate that moment with us was absolutely brilliant.
Does that tell you that this team has an appreciation for those who have gone before them, who might not have the same accolades, quite the same recognition as these girls are now going to have, but who paved the way?
Yes, they have that. And fortunately, I've played with Harman. They have a few of the other cricketers have been just around when I was playing or I was just about to finish my sport. Even Sneh Rana has played with me. Deepti Sharma and all have just come in when I was finishing off my career. Jhulan has played with this bunch of cricketers till 2022. So the familiarity is a lot more. And they know that we just didn't become broadcasters overnight. We were where they have been. Even today, we have been there in that dressing room. So the respect is there, the awareness is there. Probably the next couple of generations down the line, they'll only see us as broadcasters if we are still broadcasters. So, but for them to celebrate it with us and share that same emotion, that was nice. And I always feel that when you have generations together or past and present players together, that's where you actually go out there and share the sweetest memory.
So tell me, Anjum, what do you believe that this will do for women's cricket in India, but also more broadly than that, even globally?
It should be very good in the sense that, more people will obviously get to know about the women's game. Cricket, everyone knows. Women's cricket, people do know, but now they'll know it. With a more likable attitude, in the sense, more familiar attitude, because India has won a World Cup and the connect will be a lot more stronger. Yes, the responsibility on the team and everyone around becomes more because now you're world champions. But I guess the fact is that, one day you would do well, one fine day you might not do well. It will not be the same. The recognition and the accolades will not be the same. But at least it's a start. We've won a World Cup. So the seriousness towards the sport will increase. The fact that you want the team to sustain as champions or just about it, that seriousness or that attention will come towards the women's game even more.
What do you think the future holds for Harmanpreet Kaur now?
She will be around. Her immediate target, of course, is the T20 World Cup, which is there for everyone. Though I asked the coach, I said, so now are you preparing for T20 World Cup? And the girls, he looked at me with such question mark eyes. He says, I don't know whether I'm going left or right. And you're asking me, what am I doing 6 months down the line? Everything is a blur for me right now. I said, yeah, you can take 2 days and then start.
There will be that much more expectation on a team who are world champions to play in a T20 World Cup.
Yes, because they've been very close to a final over there in 23. They lost to Australia. Didn't have a great campaign in 24. But the fact is that Harmanpreet Kaur will be around, and I'm hoping that she should just be as fit as she is and even get fitter. the hunger to succeed will be as much as it was all this while for a 50-over contest. And I guess the team will also feel very happy and comfortable getting into another ICC event. 6 months down the line, they'll feel that, they have to do all the good things that they've done in the past, and probably a lot more quicker because it's going to be a shorter format.
Anjum, great to speak to you and get that sense of being there, and for sharing with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ali.
That's former India captain Anjum Chopra. Just so much joy in her voice, Chari. And the bit that actually really jumped out at me was when she spoke about the time that the fans had invested into the team. That's really significant, isn't it?
Without question. I mean, just about everything of this campaign, the World Cup campaign. Of course, it was a bit of a roller coaster too, wasn't it? When they lost those 3 matches in the middle, and against New Zealand, it was like a do or die, and luckily they did. And of course, there was a massive resurgence, that semi-final really. And there was, I think, a note made earlier about, was it Jim who said that had they perhaps, in their rejoicing, spent so much energy that they may not be able to come back for the final. I think that was absolutely critical. I too felt the same, Jim. And well, anyway, they came back. Well, they came back really well, I've got to admit. Yes, there's no question that a very large section of the population now, much more than ever before, supports the game, knows a little more. There's been extended media, Alison. I think that's made a very big difference. It's not just a match, a score. There have been many stories. I think the stories tend to last a lot longer than, say, a scorecard. And just about every girl playing now, and some of those who probably didn't, also have their stories written about, their backgrounds, and all of that will stay in the minds a lot longer than perhaps that they made 298 or whatever, and they won by 52 runs. So it's the stories that these women have generated. Jemima, very famously, of course, after that knock, became this huge star, and all the rest most of them were stars anyway. Deepti certainly, and a few others. So it's just the kind of attention that the media has now lavished on the women's team collectively and individually that will, I think, propel the game forward, not just the scoreline. And that's what's going to bring more people into at least the bigger matches in India. I do, there are a couple of cautionary notes. One, the fact that now there's responsibility, Alison, because they now need to do a lot more winning than losing close matches or matches against lesser teams. That might lead to the usual sort of rebound about, you've won a World Cup and now what's going on now. So there's that added pressure for sure, I think. But on the other hand, each generation, 5-7 years of the cricketers coming through, are looking more, if I may say so, international. They are fitter, they're stronger, they hit longer, they bowl a little quicker. All the little things that were missing in the Indian women's cricketers are now certainly not missing. And I do feel the kind of performance they showed here. I mentioned earlier as well, the matches were all in India, and I suppose that they need to win one more World Cup away from India, perhaps in Australia or England, as they say, to really cement their being on top of the ladder. We'll see what happens later on, but it's been just fantastic to see the crowd reaction for sure. And many people who traditionally don't follow cricket or even women's cricket now are quite aware of the fact that, Charu, didn't the women play great? I said, well, you never followed any kind of cricket. But so it's gone well beyond just the pundits and the connoisseurs. It's sort of percolated down, I think, to even the non-cricket loving public, which is fantastic.
Well, it was a packed and passionate crowd in Navi Mumbai at the D.Y. Patil Stadium for the World Cup final, and it included over 80 members of the Bucket Hat Cult. Now, you might remember us speaking to them before on Stump. They are a loud and proud supporters group of the Indian women's team, and you can spot them because they all wear, you guessed it, bucket hats. I've caught up with Radha Gupta, a member of the group who travelled from Bangalore to Mumbai for the final, and I asked her to take us back to just how she felt at the winning moment.
I still have goosebumps when I think about it. All of us were standing on our chairs, waiting for the 10th wicket to fall. And I think at the stroke of midnight, Nadine de Klerk just shot one up in the air and everyone just held their breath. I think that winning moment, honestly, is a core memory. And someone was asking me, is this the top one moment of your life? And I said, yes. I wasn't part of the playing 11, but it was definitely a core memory for all of us.
Yeah, incredible. And what about the way the match unfolded? I mean, what were your own emotions as the match was being played out?
Yeah, so firstly, the rain made us wait for 2 hours, which was a nice little teaser for us. The match was really competitive. It was nice to have 2 new entrants into the final, or at least 2 new contenders for the title. And I thought we were a few runs short, and I was going to have real disciplined bowling, by India, and disciplined fielding for us to get over the line. So it was really nice to see India peak at the right time. And, we were cheering for every dot ball, every fielding, every catch. It was a really special, 10 hours in the stadium.
And I remember seeing Jemima Rodrigues, Jemmy, coming over to the stand at the end of the match, didn't she, and acknowledging all you guys with her bucket hat in hand.
I don't have any words to describe it. When a player has just won a World Cup final, it's their moment, it's their team's moment, and they've taken the time out to come and thank the fans in the stands. Honestly, we were tipping our hat to her, and she ran into the changing room, came out with hers, and thanked us for our support. And that's really all we needed from her.
How wall-to-wall has the coverage been since that trophy was lifted?
People are sitting at their workplaces just consuming content. I don't think anyone's working. We have chants running in our heads 24/7. We're engaging with all the content, commenting on all the players' posts, and telling all our families about it. Our family group chats have suddenly completely popped off, and we have grandparents who are like, wow, this team is really good. Why wasn't I watching them earlier? And I think, there's a new wave of content creation and consumption within the Indian women's cricket space, and that's really special.
Because did you see your own group grow during the course of the tournament? Obviously, 40,000 odd in the stadium by the end, but what about the bucket hat cult, yourselves?
Yeah, so we had a WhatsApp community that we started off 1 month before the World Cup with 20, 30 odd people there. And I think we're 200, 300 plus now. After every game, we were getting messages on which stand are you sitting in? How do we join you? What do we need? Do we need to bring our bucket hat? And we were like, no, we have enough for everyone. Please join us. We just want your voice and your enthusiasm. And Mumbai is a really big hub for us. DY Patil is sort of our fortress. We were really, really, fortunate to see that final go down the way it did in our home stadium.
What do you think this will do for women's cricket in India?
I will tell you what I hope it does. I hope women's cricket is not an afterthought anymore. I hope we have very good branding and marketing for all our matches going forward. I hope the ticket logistics is not a nightmare for any true fan who wants to go visit. I hope, the women are recognized on the streets. I'm sure they all are household names now. And I really hope that women's cricket and women's sport in India is taken much more seriously and is thoroughly invested in, be it time, money, energy, whatever that may be. I hope to see that a lot more going forward.
Well, Radha, will you finish up by telling us how did you all celebrate? How long were you in the stadium for afterwards? What was it all like?
We were in the stadium until the cops kicked us out. The cops were like, we want to go home, please leave. We went down the stairs. We celebrated a little bit outside the stadium as well. And I think maybe 3 or 4 a.m., we all departed back to our homes. And we consumed content through the night. We watched all the highlights, all the press conferences. And it was a day I think none of us will ever forget.
Radha, thanks for sharing your experiences with us on Stumped. Great to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Yep, memories that will last a lifetime. Radha Gupta there from the fan group, the Bucket Hat Cult. That is all we've got time for on this week's Stumped. So I'll say big thanks to Charis Sharma, Jim Maxwell, and to all of you. And we'll see you again very soon. Until then, bye for now.